everyone, it's Dr. Christine Kaczmar. Thank you for listening to Smart Digestion Radio. This is episode 35. For today, I have lined up for you my personal review of the documentary, What the Health. Stay tuned.
There are certain bodily things a lady doesn't discuss. Unless it's this lady. Welcome to Smart Digestion Radio with Dr. Christine Kaczmar, the Poop Scoop Show for the wellness-minded.
Okay, so what happens in practice many times is patients will come to me and say, hey, Dr. Christine, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of this article? What do you think of this documentary? And so on. And so I took the time and I watched every single second of this movie. I didn't watch just pieces and parts. I watched it all. And I took about 12 pages of notes on this movie. And so what I want to do is just kind of give you my spiel of what I think about the movie. And first of all, I want you to know that I agree with about 80% of the movie. But the 20% that I disagree with is pretty important. So first thing I want to start by saying is, why would I uniquely be qualified to even review this movie? Well, the answer is, first, I was vegetarian for 9 years of my life, and of those 9 months, I was a vegan. So I understand this lifestyle. Next, I've been in practice in the digestive realm for 17 years, but specifically focusing on my digestive work in functional medicine with all gut-related issues such as Crohn's, colitis, constipation. I've been focusing on that for the last decade. And what I've noticed is there are definitely certain foods that trigger problems with people more than others. And so in the thousands of patients that I've worked on, I feel I have a really strong opinion and a pretty clinically based observation of what I find to be so with what's going on with diet. So the first question that many will ask me, or maybe you even thought after you watch this movie, is, should I become a vegan? The answer is, I don't know. Because there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all approach here. I think a vegan diet can work great for most people for at least a short period of time, but I'm more doubtful for a vegan diet more long-term. What I do feel is that people should eat way more plants. To become more plant-based is definitely something I'd agree with. But what matters more than anything else is, no matter your diet, can you effectively digest it? You are not what you eat. The phrase "you are what you eat" is false. Better said, you are what you digest. And I'm here to tell you another reason why I'm uniquely qualified for this review is I can say with certainty that if I were to classify a type of diet with patients that I've seen over these years, the most sickly patients, bar none, are vegans, have been vegans. The problem with that is you can be a vegan and eat horribly wrong for a vegan, meaning maybe you eat pasta all day long, right? Just because you're a vegan and you don't eat animals doesn't mean that you're eating healthy things. And so it's very important that if you're going to eat vegan at all, that you're getting a lot more plants and greens and fruits than you are things like breads and grains. The one thing that I love more than anything else about this movie is that the question, should I become more conscious about my food choices? Yes, a resounding yes. I remember when I was in chiropractic school, it was probably 1997, where I was able to view the movie Diet for a New America. This was by John Robbins, the former heir to the throne of the Baskin-Robbins industry. He chose not to go that route. He turned down the family money and he went his own way. Literally, the next day I became vegetarian. Not vegan, but vegetarian. And from there on, so that's 20 years later, I've never looked back at how I decide what I'm going to buy when I buy food. It significantly altered my life, that movie. I watched the movie version of it, and I also read the book. And I can also see how this movie may do that for some, but a lot of the science that they're supporting in this movie could be much better. One of the big knocks I have about this movie is that they're so pro-vegan, which is one thing, but teach people how to be a healthy vegan. Teach people how to be healthy with the plant-based choices. And we'll go into a little bit more of that as we go. Essential to me, if you're listening to my podcast here, is that you understand that accountability and responsibility for your health lies on you. In this movie, What the Health, they feature about 3 or 4 different people talking about the 16 plus pharmaceutical meds that they are on. And it's very obvious that they're so dependent upon their doctor's choices and their doctor's guidelines that it makes my skin crawl, because I see that too much in practice as well. First, before you even select a diet, you really need to say, am I accountable for my health, or am I putting my health in the hands of someone else? Please don't do that. Please don't put your health in the hands of somebody else. Do your research, be accountable, be responsible, because otherwise nothing really else matters. One of the great points this movie attempts to make is that eating meat, dairy, and eggs increases the chance of heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. So a little background statistics for you from the CDC. I thought maybe you might be interested in what the top 10 cancers are in the United States. And this is from the CDC's website, and these statistics are pulled from 2014. This is all ethnicity in the United States, men and women. All right, here we go. Number 1 is breast cancer, 2, prostate, 3, lung, 4, colorectal, 5, uterine, 6 is skin, 7 is bladder, 8 is non-Hodgkin lymphoma, 9 is kidney, and 10 is thyroid. Once again, real quick, breast, prostate, lung, colorectal, uterus, skin, bladder, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, kidney, and thyroid. So the question I pose to you is, of these 10, which are really influenced by the gut, which are influenced by your diet? The answer is every single one of these. Now, you might be thinking, how is that possible? How in the world would breast cancer be related to my gut, or my diet, or uterine, or lymphoma? Well, the answer is simply fats and carbs, remember, make your hormones. And so if you're not effectively digesting fats and proteins, well, you're going to have some endocrine disruption. In the movie, I did enjoy how they took to task associations like the American Diabetic Association, the American Cancer Society, American Heart Association. And why I love that they touched upon this is that big pharma, things like, or companies like Merck, Pfizer, Bayer, and so on, they donate millions of dollars to these associations. Even Splenda donates millions of dollars to the American Diabetic Association. So there's major conflict of interest. Big Pharma spends more on lobbying in Washington than any other group. Whether it's big oil, defense, banks, big ag, Big Pharma's at the top of the list. So I did enjoy that component of this movie where they expose that these societies are really guilty of a lot of conflict of interest. There are a few quotes in this movie that I do agree with. In fact, this is from Dr. Alan Goldhammer. And when he's talking about the conventional medical treatment, he says, quote, "You are guaranteed that if you follow your doctor's advice, you'll be sick forever. You'll never get well," end quote. Further, he says, quote, "Because the strategies are all about manipulating the symptoms, not dealing with the underlying cause." Dr. Coldwell Esselstyn, MD, says, quote, "You come in with that diagnosis, you get a bunch of pills that have nothing to do with the diagnosis, causation, or you get the procedure that has nothing to do with disease or causation." Further, the people who take the statins, they still get their heart attacks, they still get their strokes. This does not reverse disease. This does not make plaque smaller. This is a front of massive proportions, and he's referring to Big Pharma. Dr. Michael Clapper, MD, says, quote, "It is a deception to say, this pill will help you unclog your arteries. This one will save you from a stroke. No, it doesn't," end quote. So I enjoyed a little bit of this aspect of the movie, What the Health, but I felt like the movie was schizophrenic, meaning they're going after Big Pharma, which is great, but then they're also going after all the food groups except for those if you are a vegan. And that I just don't agree with. All right, let's take a quick break, and I'll be right back. The phrase, "you are what you eat," is false. Better said, you are what you digest. Hey, it's Dr. Christine Kaczmar here. And if you're listening and you're out of state, maybe you live in Florida, maybe you live in Texas, and you'd like to work with me, I have you covered. Go to virtualdigestiondoc.com. That's virtualdigestiondoc.com. You will see there are 3 very specific ways that we can work together, even at long distance. Check out virtualdigestiondoc.com. Are you tired of being gassy and bloated and feeling like you got a bowling ball in your belly? I've got you covered there too. Go to omegadigestion.com to pick up my flagship product, Smart Carb. Smart Carb is a digestive enzyme with all of the enzymes in it you need to digest fats, carbs, proteins, dairy, you name it. It also has the healing botanicals of turmeric, black pepper, and cinnamon. Check it out by going to omegadigestion.com. That's omegadigestion.com. Some key points that I disagree with this movie are how they're talking about processed meat, yet showing images and videos of grilled meat or good cuts of meat. That's not the same thing. A chicken breast is not the same thing as processed meat. A filet mignon is not the same as processed meat, but yet they vilify all meat in this way on this movie. Talking about fats and proteins from your meat, your dairy, and eggs to be the contributing factor to diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and elevated cholesterol is just not how it goes. You need fat and protein, and you get good quality sources of fats and proteins from certain meats, dairy, and eggs. And when you have elevated cholesterol, more so than anything else, we have elevated cholesterol because we have low stomach acid. And when we have low stomach acid, we're going to have bile formation that's not going to be executed properly, and that's going to lead to cholesterol spilling over into the blood. So if we correct low stomach acid, we can often correct the high cholesterol. Another point I disagree with in this movie is they make sugar kind of a hero. Dr. Bernard in this movie rolls his eyes when asked the question, does sugar cause the diabetes and insulin sensitivity? If you were to listen to him, you would think it wouldn't. I disagree. Just because you eat fat and protein doesn't mean you're going to have insulin sensitivity. Similarly, just because you eat carbs doesn't mean you're going to have insulin sensitivity. But the problem in our society is that we are eating way too many carbohydrates. We need to be eating more fats and proteins. Another graphic in the movie talks about getting adequate protein sources to the tune of about 60 grams of protein daily by eating broccoli and rice. This image does not dive deeper because if you did, you would see that it would mean you would need to eat 10 cups of rice and 10 cups of broccoli to get to that 60 grams. No one's going to do that. Nor would I recommend anyone do that. That's way too many carbohydrates in that rice, to the tune of 400 plus grams a day. The singular blame on eating a non-vegan diet to be the reason for heart disease, diabetes, and cancer is faulty. We need to be looking at lifestyle issues. This could be anything from mindset to a sedentary lifestyle to what's going on with our job and so on. There are many different factors as to why somebody comes down with a disease, if you will. These things take time to accumulate to create disease. And having a non-vegan diet is just not the cause alone of any kind of disease at all. I think a big miss also in this film is that they didn't really show a proper vegan diet. I think it's great if people want to do a vegan diet. I just don't agree with it long term. But they didn't really go over any of the recipes, or they didn't go over any of the types of foods one would eat to be a healthy vegan. A lot of vegans I've seen in the past have a very unhealthy vegan diet. This was a missed opportunity, I felt. A lot of the vegans who have an improper diet are those that are eating a lot of wheat, a lot of corn, a lot of grain. I don't advise that ever. This is why I say no pork, peanuts, corn, soy, wheat. Those are the 5 foods that I've found in 17 years in practice that disrupt the gut more than any other. And finally, I certainly didn't agree with the images of the people that they followed around in this movie that were on like 15 plus medications, and how they, like for example, the woman in the puffy coat, all of a sudden 2 weeks pass, she's out of her coat, they slap on some makeup and a dress on her, and now suddenly she's off of all of her 18 plus meds. I thought that was very irresponsible. Very irresponsible. So the points I did agree with the movie is I do feel everyone should eat more plant-based for sure. I agree in the movie that we should be paying more attention to the way our animals are treated. Absolutely. I think that sheds some great light on that fact. I love in the movie how they expose the American Diabetes Association, American Heart Association, American Cancer Society to have conflict of interest with Big Pharma. But overall, this is really a lopsided, not complete piece. I think it's good for those reasons I just stated about being more conscious of what we are eating and where this food comes from. I think that's great. But a big miss all the way around to try to make it seem like high quality meat, dairy, and eggs are issues. Because they're not. I think eggs are an amazing source of protein, especially if they're pastured eggs. Pastured meaning they're coming from hens that are roaming the grass, eating the insects, being free, not in a cage or a warehouse. So that's what I think of this movie. If you want to find out more about this movie in my live review I did for my Facebook group, you can go to my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/thedigestiondoc. Alrighty then, another episode of Smart Digestion Radio is in the books. However, the conversation never stops there. Great hubs to connect with me are going to be my Facebook page, which is The Digestion Doc. That's my handle on Twitter and Instagram as well. If you are interested in joining my community, my private inner circle over on Facebook, go to healthyrebelsfb.com. That's healthyrebelsfb.com. And my other main sites are thedigestiondoctor.com and omegadigestion.com. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being a part of the mission. My mission is to save 5 million lives from the broken medical model, and I cannot do it alone. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.